Welcome into another season of Pete's Pigskin Preview. I'm Neil McCready, joined, as you might expect, by Pete DeWeese, our MPW football digital expert. We'll get you ready for the Ole Miss season. Begins on Saturday at 1 p.m. Central at Vaught-Hemingway. Ole Miss entertains Mercer. It is the Rebels opener, as you almost certainly know at this point. Mercer is 1-0, having defeated North Alabama on Saturday in Montgomery at what they described as famous Crampton Bowl. Having been to Crampton Bowl, I never thought of it as famous. I just thought of it as a stadium, but they played there and they won. So we'll get to all of that in a minute. First, I do want to tell you we have a new sponsor this year. It's Riverland Roofing. Would you like some peace of mind knowing that your roof is taken care of? Whether you need an inspection, a new roof, or a maintenance program, Riverland Roofing has you covered, home or business. As a GAF Master Elite contractor, they can offer warranties that last a lifetime. Licensed and insured, Riverland services Mississippi and its surrounding states. So text or call Riverland today at 662-644-4297. This show, like all of our other shows, also presented by Twisted Tea. We'll tell you about Twisted Tea a little bit later in the program. But Pete, welcome in. How are you?
I'm good. Glad to be back and excited for a full slate of football ahead of us.
Yeah, you guys have already gotten started in Georgia. I presume probably played.
We have. Yeah, we're 2 games into the season, preparing for week 3, and trying to get off the injury bus because we're loaded up with it right now and it's affecting us. But we're hopefully by the time we get to region play, all the guys that need to play will be ready to play.
We won't spend any time on this, but it was unbelievably hot last weekend. I kept thinking on Friday night about all the people throughout the South that were under the dome. And I don't mean the Superdome. I mean the dome of heat, wearing pads, running around. You condition and all of those things, but there's only so much preparation you can do for that kind of heat. What was that like?
We put our kids on a bus at 4:35 with no air conditioning. And we have 4 buses, and I think one of the 4 had air conditioning, and conveniently enough, that's where most of our starters were riding. But we joked, like, in Atlanta, you never know what traffic is going to be, and we're north of the city, but we're still. It's Friday afternoon in Atlanta. There's nowhere within a 50-mile radius that doesn't experience traffic. So somehow our buses hit it just right and never really had to come to much of a standstill. And so there was always a breeze. And, but we started preparing our kids. Really, we started talking about it on Monday. And by Wednesday, it was, if you're in the hallway, gallon of water in your hand, slam your body with electrolytes. I went to Kroger on Thursday and bought coconut water, and electrolyte drinks for our running backs and a couple of the guys that I know they naturally lose a lot. And so, we don't have the resources that an Ole Miss or a college is going to have, and the way to monitor certain things and kind of force fluids into people. But you do the best you can. You educate your kids as best as you can. And then, you just hope for a little bit of shade. We were fortunate when pregame started for us. The team we were playing, our normal kickoffs at 7:30. Their entire school system backed all the start times up till 8. So you push everything back 30 minutes, and it really made a huge difference because it allowed the sun to get behind the trees for once we got halfway through pregame, and the temperature changed immensely. So was kind of grateful for that. But it's wild because here we have very strict regulations that we have to follow, and then there's other states that have nothing. And you talk to guys in Texas or Arizona where they're constantly dealing with high temperatures, and they don't deal with the same regulations that we deal with. But Georgia takes it very seriously.
They do here too. They have like the heat bubble thing,
the wet bulb.
The wet bulb. That's what it's called. And if it gets over 94, I think you're out. So there was a lot of. I know that Oxford last week practiced at the Manning Center inside the. I don't know where Lafayette practiced. They played each other on Friday night. My son's soccer stuff got moved indoors because it was just too hot, which was smart.
Yeah, we went at 6 a.m. all week last week. We had no choice,
Yeah.
one for safety, but also because of the wet bulb. At best, once we would have hit the thresholds where we have start having to, whether it's pull off equipment or just you get into time increments, right? And it kind of maxes out before you're off the field of nothing but a t-shirt and shorts, and it's 15 minutes on, 15 minutes off in the shade, right? And so to try and not have to deal with that, we went at 6 a.m., had our kids off the field by 8 every day so they could be in homeroom by 8:20, and it makes for a long week, but you make the most of it.
Ole Miss and Mercer get started on Saturday. The temperature, by the way, expected to be about 87, 88. So hot, but not unbearably hot. So there was talk, obviously, in the summer that this would be a 100-degree day. And had it been a week earlier, it would have been, but it's not going to be. So the weather isn't going to be as big of a factor. I'm curious. You're a football guy. We're going to dive into Mercer in a minute. I'll hand it to you. But a lot of talk about chemistry, about culture, about bringing in so many new faces into a team. Basically, half of Ole Miss's roster, give or take a few, is new guys, whether it's transfer portal or freshmen. You've got a new defensive coordinator. You've got some new coaches. I know they've had a spring together. I know they've had a camp together. They've had a summer together, but it's different when the real games play and you're playing people that aren't you. How big of a deal is chemistry and culture and those kinds of things for a football team?
It certainly matters. I mean, I actually remember us kind of having this conversation last year. And when I was thinking about recording this, there's even more unanswered in a lot of ways with this roster because it really is a turned over roster. There's so many names, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, that I'm not familiar with other than what I read or hear from you guys, quite honestly. And so it certainly plays a factor. I know we talked about it last year and the whole pro mindset. They're clearly on to something. You don't get Spencer Sanders to come in. You don't get Jackson Dart to stay, right? You don't start to accrue talent the way they are at certain positions without really building that pro mindset culture of, listen, you're going to come here, and if you're the best, you're going to play, and we're going to prepare you like that. And it's as close of a model as you're going to get. And so from the very outside looking in, there's certainly, in my opinion, something to that concept and that idea. How they balance it within that locker room, right? There's always going to be favorites. There's going to be somebody that wants two behind center, and there's going to be somebody that they'd like to see Sanders, and who knows, maybe Howard's got, everybody's going to have their guys. And so it's always interesting. And, offensively, there's a rhythm, there's timing with receivers, there's things of that nature that are always going to be a factor. I think defensively in particular, right, with Golding coming in, so new coordinator, some other new coaches on that side of the ball, a new scheme entirely, and in a lot of ways an overhauled roster on that side of the ball. There's so many variables that need to click. And the reports and things I hear, it feels like the defense has kind of started to do that a little bit in practice. And I honestly think that's one of the things about this Mercer game that will be very telling for Pete Golding and the defensive staff. Make no bones about it, Ole Miss should win this ball game, period.
Yeah, of course.
But what Mercer does from a scheme standpoint is going to stress communication. It's going to stress, eye discipline, which is, I think, every message board reader's favorite coaching ism. But it's going to stress eye discipline, and they're going to learn a lot about who has the ability to operate and communicate quickly on that side of the ball. And that's such an important thing with the way that they check and the way that they adjust and the way that their coverage and their calls and the things that they're doing are manipulated by formation and splits and different movements by the offense. So in a lot of ways, while it is not the style of offense that they're going to see at any point throughout the rest of the season, in a lot of ways, I do think there's, on the defensive side of the ball, there's going to be some takeaways for them where they're going to find out, okay, if how ready is Perkins to step in, not athletically, right, but how ready is he to step in, to make that call, to see the adjustment, to respond to things on the fly? And not just him. What about the new guys, right? What about some of the other freshmen and young guys that you hope to contribute? So that camaraderie, that togetherness, whatever you want to call it, they have to on both sides of the ball, but in particular, offensive line and the entire defense. There has to be an operating relationship where they are on the same page and they're able to function at a high level and very quickly. And so it's going to be an interesting week to see how some of that stuff works out.
All right, I'm going to hand it to you in just 1 second. First, I want to tell you about Twisted Tea. Are you ready to elevate your college football game day experience? Check out Twisted Tea, your go-to game day beverage for college football fans. Twisted Tea is unlike any hard beverage you've had before. It's made with real brewed tea, packs a flavorful punch, 5% alcohol, no carbonation, delivering the perfect balance of taste and refreshment that goes down smooth for every game day occasion. There's no need to settle for the usual. Twisted Tea turns up any occasion, especially when you're cheering for your favorite team. So whether you're tailgating in the stadium parking lot, watching at a bar, or hosting friends at home, Twisted Tea is there to elevate game day. It perfectly complements your love for college football and your passion for creating unforgettable moments. So let's toast to unforgettable game day experiences. Twisted Tea, the drink that fuels fun and celebrates your love for college football. Keep it twisted. Pete, it's all yours.
All right. Prepping for this, I went back. I spent a little bit of time watching the Ole Miss spring game, just offensively trying to get a feel for where I thought they wanted to be. But also, watching what was going on with the defense and understanding that both sides were going to be pretty basic. Defensively, it was all about their base stuff. But with Mercer in particular, had the opportunity to go back and pull the 2021 tape when they played Alabama. And I really just want to focus on Mercer's offense, honestly. It is unlike anything that Ole Miss is likely to see the rest of the season. It is very much rooted in wing tee principles, and wing tee has not been a major thing in college football for quite some time. But they really do a nice job of blending spread principles, wing tee principles, and just trying to maximize what they have out of their players. And so obviously Golding, having come from Alabama, you get to see a little bit of what their approach was and how they chose to kind of scheme and handle this offense, because it is unique and not something that those guys are very accustomed to seeing. So kind of out the gate here, this is the very first offensive play of the game for Mercer, and you can see they open up in an empty set with 4 receivers to the right side of the formation, 1 receiver to the left, but that is not where they want to play ball. They'll get here, they'll throw some screens, they'll do some things in the passing game, but it really is not where they want to be. So very quickly, Mercer is actually going to shift out of it. And if you look at this, they not only shift and move their receivers, they move the entire offensive line. The center stays over the ball, and everybody else slides over one position to the left.
So they added a tight end on the left.
So they start in just a traditional shotgun empty set.
Yeah.
They have 3 receivers bunched to the right with 1 guy out wide, and they have 1 receiver to the left.
Okay.
And so when they call this shift, the right guard and right tackle all move left, as well as the whole left side of the line. So the right guard becomes the left guard, and the right tackle essentially becomes the right guard. And now they add a tight end to the right of the offense.
Oh, that's
so they've created a 3-man surface. They've created a guard, tackle, tight end surface on one side with 3 offensive linemen, and then a receiver out there that is on the line of scrimmage is eligible. Now,
so this can I interrupt for a second? The guy that's basically the right tackle at this very moment, he was a receiver a minute ago. Is he eligible?
So he is. So that's one of the things that when I say that Mercer is going to make Ole Miss communicate, right? So right now you have an ineligible tight end essentially on the left side of the offensive formation.
Okay.
The guy that is basically the right tackle is an eligible tight end. he has a slot or a wing that's right outside of him. And then there's another receiver off the ball all the way out to the wide side of the field. So you have a 3-by-1 formation, a trips formation of some variation, but the strength of the offensive line is actually opposite of the passing strength. Okay. So when I go to I just hit the wrong button, but when I go to the end zone copy of that same play, let me fast forward a little bit if it'll cooperate. You can see what this looks like from the defensive's perspective when Mercer starts to shift. Okay. So right now at the start of the clip, you see it looks like a traditional O-line, and then they go ahead and they shift everybody. So now left of the center from the offensive perspective, you have 3 offensive linemen. So you've created a 3-man surface now. And then you have a guard and a tight end on the backside that is eligible, even though he's essentially lined up as a tackle. Okay. So all they're going to do right here, they are going to run a scheme that is as old as they come. They're just going to run offensive power. Power O, like you might run in the Aya offense or in a pro style offense. But they're going to do it from this wing T set. So they're going to motion their wing back over, and he's essentially going to become the fullback. Okay. What Golding has chosen to do is that they're playing an odd front. They're playing their traditional odd front defense. And before the line shifts, you have the nose right over the center. And as soon as the line shifts, the entire defensive line just kicks one gap over or one man over from where they were originally lined up. So now you have your D end on what is essentially their tight end, and he's going to be responsible for his inside gap. You have Will Anderson, who's the outside linebacker in this case, who's going to be coming off the edge. And then they have this extra receiver on the outside that is going to have to answer for any DB that is overhanging outside of the formation. So what Mercer is going to do here, they're going to bring this guy in motion. They're going to use their fullback to kick out 31. They're going to pull a guard to pull up on the inside linebacker. And now they're going to hand it to their back, and they're going to run power to the left side where they've just shifted all of these extra bodies. Now, the truth is right here, okay, Alabama blows it up because it's Alabama and it's Mercer, and Mercer's a good program and a well-coached program, but they're not going to play with the same talent. They don't have the same bodies that Alabama is going to have, okay? So they're able to defeat this up front at the line of scrimmage simply by being more physical. But the big thing to see is, how does Alabama maintain the numbers when the whole point of everything Mercer's doing is about gaining an advantage from a number standpoint? So Alabama clearly prepared for it. They kicked the front over as soon as they shifted the offensive line. The coverage starts to rotate as soon as the guy goes in motion so that they maintain enough hats to the box. Okay. As you move forward, and really, we're just going to look at the first few plays of this game because there's so much you can see just here in the first 10 clips or so. Okay. So the next snap, they come out and they're in a more traditional set now. You have a tight end wing to the left, you have a slot back to the right, and then you have a fullback who is right behind the quarterback who is under center. So this is about as traditional as a wing T set gets. And again, I'm going to go to the end zone copy. They're going to come out and they are going to try to run power again. They're going to try to attack Alabama with what it would be one of their base run schemes. Okay. Now, one thing you'll notice if you're looking at this and you're watching this presentation is you'll notice that the back that's directly behind the quarterback, he's not directly behind the quarterback. He's actually cheated slightly to one side because they need to be able to use him as a lead blocker. So those are the little things that in the staff room defensively, they're probably looking at on film, and they're talking to those guys and those linebackers, you know, that if he's shaded, it's where he's going. And so typically when you coach against these types of schemes and you start teaching your read keys, right, is everybody's going to have their eyes locked somewhere. Okay. So with these outside guys, number 20 and 31, they both appear to be looking in the backfield at the fullback. If that fullback comes at them, they are going to attack. If that fullback goes away from them, they are probably taught to be patient and get their eyes to the opposite wing. Because one of the things that these offenses will do is they will bring this guy back on a counter the other direction. And if you lose those keys, if this guy were to see his fullback go this way and he were to fly up field or try to scrape back over the top, when the counter comes back his way, you don't have anybody there to set your edge.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, he's got to set a boundary, right?
You have to against this type of offense. And so here you'll see the motion happens. Again, you see the secondary adjusting, and then you watch number 20. His fullback goes away. So what does he do? He slow plays it because he knows he's responsible for counter or for boot by the quarterback. He sees the quarterback booting his way, so he's there to pull up. Okay. The same time, you see both inside backers, they're keying the fullback. They're both going to match his path unless one of these guards takes them in an opposite direction. They're probably keying through the guard to the fullback. Okay. So here they try to run power. All right. And the truth is they're one guy away from this being a big play. Okay. They're coming right now. They're going to go kick out Anderson. They're trying to hold the backside safety, number 9, by bringing this wing behind the line of scrimmage. So now you eliminate a backside run fit from the secondary. But what they want to do right here after they kick out Anderson, they want to work this combo to number 8, who's the backside linebacker. They've blocked down on the nose. They're going to pull for number 10, and they're going to say, we're going to run on the deep safety, which is number 2. Okay. What happens right here is 47, the defensive end for Alabama, does such a good job controlling the double team that the tackle can't get off. So when 10 takes on the guard, he turns it back to his help, and there's nobody there. So the back is forced to try to cut outside, where, again, Alabama has an extra defender. If Mercer can get this double team and get this tight end to come off or get this tackle to come off on number 8, you can see if they had blocked number 8 and built that wall, there's actually a hole.
Got a lane. Yeah.
You do have a lane. And it was funny to me watching this clip. If you watch the left tackle for the offense, who's lined up right on number 47, you can see he's planning on coming off to the backer and then realizes, oh crap, it's too late. And knows he can't get to him. Right. But so they're doing all these things with these motions, with these shifts, and these simple misdirection looks to, again, look at the action of the quarterback as he boots away from the play and the wing back as he sells the reverse or the counter right here. You can see the effect it has because you have 3 Alabama defenders all having to respect that backside action, and they're one block away from a pretty successful run play on the front side of the formation. You move on now. They're in 3rd and 6. Again, it's their first drive of the game. We're still early in the contest. It's 3rd and 6. Again, they present as a traditional spread team. They're in the shotgun. They have a tight end to the left with 2 receivers out to that side, and they have 1 receiver split wide to the field. Okay. They're going to motion one of the guys in to try and go block the safety, and they're just going to run a traditional toss play right here. Okay. Alabama does a fantastic job fitting it on the outside. So what Alabama's chosen to do here, it looks like, is they're playing some type of what would be known as a cloud technique, where this corner is going to be responsible for force. Okay. So once his guy goes inside, if he sees anything coming, he's going to go build the wall and try to turn everything back in. Okay. They're playing with 2 high safeties because they want to be able to protect against the waggle and the bootlegs and all the things that naturally come off of all this action in this type of offense. Okay. But they get the good force by the corner right there. He turns it back inside, and there's the linebacker. So it's 3rd and 6. They choose to go with a run play right there, gets them a yard, not overly effective. But again, you can see, it looks like a kind of a traditional set. They shift to the whole offensive line again. So now you've got a tight end with a very tight receiver to the left. You have a 3rd receiver out wide who they motion in and try to crack. And they're 1 guy away from potentially having a good play. So they come out on their next drive. It's the fourth offensive play of the game for Mercer. It's 1st and 10 on the -40. So they are not quite to midfield. Okay. And if you run this back for the start of the clip, we see them again. We see them shifting the offensive line. They start everybody to the left of the center essentially, and then they slide everybody over and they kick them all to the right. So, but when the ball is snapped, you end up with a tight end and a wing to the right of the quarterback. You have the fullback directly behind the quarterback, and the slot back that was to the left is now coming in a deep motion behind the quarterback. So Alabama's seen this look now. Okay, so they're going to come out on 1st and 10. They like where they are on the field, and they are going to go play action. And again, we talk about the importance of eye discipline, and it looks like my video is being slow all of a sudden. It doesn't like me tonight and all the weather going on outside. But we talk about the importance of eye discipline right here. And you can see as this play will eventually start to roll for us, is the movement of the offense actually springs the tight end wide open.
Oh, yeah.
What I guarantee they're expecting right here. Okay, it looks like run. It looks like the power play that they ran on the second play of the game. Okay, it looks just like it. But that tight end now blocks down and releases right past both backers. I guarantee that Golding is expecting number 9, this backside safety, to see that tight end. But when you talk about eye discipline, again, right, that's not what he sees. He sees the run action. His eyes get lost in the backfield, and that tight end comes right underneath him without him seeing it until late right there. Now, that backside linebacker, again, he's keying the fullback. Fullback goes away. He's patient. He doesn't get bootleg, so he saves him here. He turns, flies, finds that drag route, and is actually able to get underneath it. But if 20 doesn't turn and find that backside crossing route, this is a huge play for Mercer.
Yeah, it's a 15-yard pickup if 20 doesn't make the play there.
15 and arguably more. Absolutely. Yeah. The kind of thing that makes fans frustrated, but it's all that eye candy. It's all the different things that they're doing offensively with motions, with shift, with setting you up and getting you anticipating the run. They really create a lot of different situations. Okay. So they come out here on this play and they line up, and you're going to see Ole Miss line up in this formation. It's a guarantee. They're in the shotgun with an H back to the left and tailback next to the quarterback. You have 2 receivers to the left, 1 to the right, and they're going to bring the slot receiver from the left side, and they're going to bring him in jet sweep motion to the right. Now, you watch this, you don't see much. It's toss sweep. I've seen toss sweep before, okay? But when you watch this from the end zone, again, we talk about discipline and all the things that Mercer will do to mess with your eyes, okay? Right here, the read is now changed for these linebackers most likely. Earlier, we talked about that quarterback was under center, the fullback was behind him, how they're keying through those guards to that fullback. Well, now they're in a more traditional set, so their read has changed. They may still be keying through guards. They may still be keying tailback here, but what Mercer's going to do is smart. When they bring this guy in jet motion, he is going to attract eyes. The other thing they're going to do is they're going to take their right guard and they're going to pull him to the right in the same direction that the jet sweep is going. When in reality, they want to toss the ball to the left. So they're going to pull their left guard to the left to try to get out in front of the actual ball carrier. Okay. So you are cutting the defense in half right here. And again, your goal is to sustain blocks on the front side. And if I can get any backside defender that they're counting on in the fit, that they're relying to be the cutback player, if I can get him to delay just enough and I handle the front side just enough, I can create a seam. Okay. It's hard to get one against Alabama, admittedly, but you can see with that backfield action, the pulling guard, the effect, if I go back, the effect that it actually has on the left linebacker for the defense. Okay. He is out of the run fit because he sees a false pull.
You're talking about Henry Toa number 10. Is that right?
Yes. Thank you. I couldn't remember his last name. Okay. He starts and takes 3 steps to his left. And if they can get into the seam here that number 8 cuts off, and they get a hat on him, there's nobody in the cutback now because that action up front has done enough just to occupy the bodies. Now, again, what Alabama does, they do two things here. It's a phenomenal job by the outside linebacker, but it's also a phenomenal job by the corner. And if I go back to the wide copy here, the corner at the top of the field, again, playing that cloud technique where if he gets a threat at him right now, he is going to jump inside of his receiver and try to go force everything back inside. And you'll see here, he sees it. He's going to go and he's going to attack it late, but he's going to force it back inside. And now he funnels it back to his safety, back to his inside linebackers. They actually get a holding call there. And I think they go for, no, they don't. Okay. So it's 3rd and 9, must be the next drive with the holding call. So now they're 3rd and 9 here. Okay. Obvious passing situation. So again, they come out in a more traditional set. It's more of a true spread offense style set now. It's not true wing T. They're going to motion that tight end across, but they're still not comfortable fully being a true drop back team. So they're going to try to come with a screen here. Okay. If Ole Miss can get them into 3rd and long situations, it is more likely to see runs and screens than a ton of drop back passes, in my opinion. This is an example. They try to occupy coverage with a post wheel on the outside, and then they bring the running back across. What Alabama's done is they've got they're playing a version of a match coverage where now the inside linebacker is man-to-man on that running back, and so he's able to sniff it out before they're able to get anybody to him. Just real quickly, going on to kind of the next drive, it's 1st and 10 again. Okay, they come out, and again, they are showing a fairly traditional wing T type set. You've got one receiver out to either side, 2 slot backs, and then the quarterback is in the shotgun with the running back right next to him. So they're going to send one receiver in jet motion, again, to try to occupy and hold. Okay, and then they are going to try to run a version of counter, which is something, this is a scheme that you've seen. UCF ran it a ton with Heupel and Levy. Tennessee still running it a ton, and you've seen it some out of Ole Miss the past couple of years, where they actually start the sniffer on one side. He fakes like he's going opposite, and then returns to the original side, which is where they're pulling to, and they're trying to run the counter. So again, they're messing with eyes. We're going to send this jet motion. We're going to force a coverage rotation. And what they're trying to do right there is they're trying to get 20 to respect that jet motion and not go hammer the guard, which is what happens. So they actually get a good kick out by the guard. But the tight end can't get through to the linebacker, and they're able to funnel the play up and shut it down. So very much run based, very much based off of misdirection. This is now a 2nd and 9. We're going to see him get back into the passing game here. And this is just straight up old school. We're going to pull up and throw a hitch. We're going to protect with 7, throw a hitch, just like you might see all day long. And if Pete Golding decides to play off with his corners and give them grass, they're going to take grass on those things. But in a perfect world, they want to live in a situation where they can do things like this. Okay, so they're back again. It's 1st and 10. They line up with the tight end to the left, fullback behind the quarterback, and they have a slot to the right of the offense. Okay. They're going to come out and they're going to run essentially a quarterback. It's almost like a quarterback toss or a quarterback truck. They're going to get 2 guys out in front of him, but they have a reverse coming from the slot receiver who is going to try to hold the backside. And again, it's about splitting the defense in half, right? And if you watch right here, one of Alabama's defensive linemen, the defensive end down here at the bottom of the screen, actually fights off of a cut block, and the quarterback has already run right past him with the ball, and he goes chasing the reverse the other direction before he realizes what's happened, right? Because again, it's misdirection. It is about, I have to have my eyes in the right place. I have to communicate. I have to know what my keys are, and I have to be dialed into my assignment and knowing what to do right there. They get a nice 9-yard gain on the quarterback run, gets them across midfield. Now, this is 2021. After 2021, you saw some rules changes. It affects your ability to cut defenders, especially downfield, outside of the box. And so, is this the same scheme we'll see? I doubt it, because a lot of the effectiveness of this play is about the ability to cut. But if you watch Navy last weekend, the offense is adapting because these wing T and option offenses are having to adapt because the rules of modern football aren't allowing them to play the game that they want to play. But the idea, the way that they're trying to attack, to split the defense in half, these are the things that they are constantly going to try to do. Here they start out. This is a great job by the corner. Again, he's playing that cloud technique. He funnels off the wide receiver, recognizes the player in the flat, and is able to come up and actually makes a hell of an interception. But this is just them again. They're going to use fast motion to try to show you one thing. They're going to fake everybody the other way. And it's just a way of getting to a naked bootleg like Ole Miss or the freaking San Francisco 49ers or anybody else might run. And they're just going to try to use all this misdirection to do it. So they're going to show you the jet sweep to the left of the offense while the offensive line is selling the run to the right. They're going to fake it to that tailback to the right. They're going to boot out to the left and try to get easy throws in the flat, along with crossers coming from the back side of the field.
That is bizarre. The quarterback's footwork there is so disorienting.
There are so many nuances to how you have to teach and work so many of these little things. You have to be a little bit of a master of disguise defensively, or excuse me, at quarterback rather, to really play that position in this offense. I mean, they want you to be an athlete. It's actually there's a publishing company out there, Throw Deep Publishing, that puts a lot of stuff out, resources for coaches, and they do books and webinars and different things. And Mercer's offensive coordinator actually did a release with them this summer where he walked through kind of their entire offense. And one thing they do an interesting job of that I'm curious to see what we see week one is they have a lot of pretty cool wrinkles and gadget plays, reverses, reverse passes, toss pass, some funky screen variations. They do some really cool stuff in the offense. And so, again, fans should certainly expect Ole Miss to be the better team on Saturday, period.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting for the defensive staff to grade the film after the game. Who really understands what we're trying to do? Who's communicating it? Who's playing fast? And so, it'll be a good learning experience. And I'm not going to tell you that Ole Miss is going to learn a lot about their defense game one. They're going to learn more game two, probably. But the coaching staff is going to learn a lot about who's communicating, who's doing the things they need to do by the time they walk off this game. So.
Let me ask this question, and I'm curious to get your answer, and let me try to phrase it in a way that I'm not insulting the defensive talent at Ole Miss, because it's obviously a lot of talented guys. They've got 20-something guys on the Senior Bowl watch list. There's a lot of guys that are NFL caliber players. But I don't think I'm insulting anyone when I say there's not necessarily a Will Anderson out there. There's not a Dallas Turner. There's not a Kool-Aid McKinstry. There's probably Suntarine Perkins might end up being this player, but he's not today. Henry To'oTo'o, the list goes on. Jordan Battle. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Pete Golding's had an embarrassment of riches in terms of talent on his side of the ball at Alabama. He's starting to recruit those kind of players at Ole Miss. We see the success happening in recruiting, but I don't know that type of talent, that elite type of talent, is at his disposal this year at Ole Miss. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm curious for a coach, how much of an adjustment will it be for him going from, hey, look, I got Will Anderson, to, all right, now we have to be a lot more fundamentally sound because I don't have the super athlete to cover up mistakes.
Well, the one thing I'll say is this. Part of what makes the Will Andersons and that Alabama defense good in general is not just their talent, but they are fundamentally sound, right? Like right. When you have elite players that play with elite fundamentals, I mean, you look at what Kirby's doing right now, and that's what it is. You have guys that are extremely well coached and extremely talented, and they play at an extremely high level. Now, here to me is the big thing, right? How long was Golding at Alabama? Was it 5,
7 years?
6 years? Okay.
Yeah,
before that.
He was at
He wasn't
UTS.
at Alabama.
Right, right.
Right. And so Nick Saban doesn't hire him away from a Notre Dame or away from he didn't go pluck him out of a Power 5 coordinator position where he was a top 15 ball coach. That wasn't the case. He went and found a guy that, from all accounts that I've heard, whatever, extremely knowledgeable on the board, really understands the game, has a good feel for the game, and is a good teacher of the game. And so when you hire those guys, and again, not guys that might be living under the shine of coaching in this elite talent at this top 10 program, but a guy that has cut his teeth, been a very good coach at decent programs, right? And then he's able to come in and assimilate the same scheme. And, you're not, you didn't go hire a used car salesman that's just been fortunate enough to have a bunch of Mercedes on the lots.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he is a guy that presumably he's gonna put his players in the best chance to win. And that's the other thing that, and I was one of the press conferences recently, and I read it on the site, and was Kiffin talking about they're starting to figure some things out from a personnel standpoint defensively, and some of that stuff is they probably this fall threw a lot at those kids because they're trying to find out what is our best personnel grouping. I'm curious to see. They don't have a Will Anderson. They have somebody playing that position. They do not have a Will Anderson. So they may not ask that kid to do the same thing they ask Will Anderson to do all the time. What they're going to do is find, what does he do best? Now, what do we carry that lets him do that? And when he can't do that, then who's in so we can do the other thing, right? And so that's what I think you're going to see until they get a good grasp on who they are and what they are from a personnel standpoint.
Interesting stuff. Should be an interesting Saturday. Again, Ole Miss and Mercer, 1:00 Central Time on Saturday at Vaught-Hemingway. We'll be back next week. It'll be a pretty interesting show. I'm fascinated. One of the games I'm fascinated by. I'm glad Ole Miss is playing at 1 from a personal standpoint. I know the fans would like a 6:00 game. I'm glad it's at 1 because there's 2 games that I want to watch Saturday night. One is North Carolina, South Carolina. The other is South Alabama at Tulane. I'm super interested in that game, so I'll get a chance to see it. I know I suspect the Ole Miss coaching staff will be watching that game. If they'll certainly be breaking the film down. So we'll be talking about Ole Miss and Tulane next Saturday in New Orleans. That game, a 2:30 start, outdoor.
Listen, you and Siski, call Kane, tell him to send me the all 22. Just go ahead and send it to me, and we'll have a great breakdown next week if we can get it.
You know what? I might be able to pull that off. We've got Kane coming on, McCready and Siski on Thursday. So,
yeah, it's fun when he's on there. I had a chance to meet him when he was at Ole Miss. He's a good guy.
He's a character. That we're going to discuss the Jaguar thing a little further because there's conflicting reports about whether Kane would survive the Jaguar Challenge or not. There's a lot of people that think he would, but Kane might be fibbing a little on his 40 time. And if that's in this case, the difference is not whether you get a scholarship offer or not. It could be life or death. So it's pretty serious stuff. So we'll talk about. I'm fascinated. I think South Alabama is beating Tulane on Saturday. I think Tulane is overhyped, overranked, but they'll play on the field. It's a scoreboard business. They'll keep score on Saturday, and we'll see. So we'll come back next week again. We brought to you by our friends at Riverland Roofing. They service Mississippi and surrounding states. Text them or call them at 662-644-4297. For Pete Deweese, I'm Neil McCready. We'll be back with another edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview next week. Have a great weekend. Be safe out there. Take care.